Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the next episode of the Sustainability Network. I am Shruti Harihara Subramanian, and I am the founder of GoliSodaStore.com. Goli Soda is a brand that caters to all things sustainable. We are a one-stop shop for anything that's truly sustainable and eco-friendly. We started in 2013. Initially, our focus was on products, and then we realized there's more to sustainability or being eco-friendly than just buying upcycled products or just eco-friendly products. So we are now focusing on the complete sustainable package to make sure that our products are natural, eco-friendly, the carbon footprint is as less as it can be, the packaging is zero waste, fair trade, vegan. We are trying our best to cater to all things sustainable. So do check out our site, golisodastore.com. In this episode of Sustainability Network, we are meeting the founder of Dwij, Soumya. And my initial conversations with Soumya turned out to be very exciting, and she came out to be very passionate about sustainability. So I'm really looking forward to talking to Soumya today. And Dwij caters, they make upcycle products out of wasted jeans. Waste jeans, denims. So I will let Soumya tell us more about her brand. Meanwhile, just a reminder to all our viewers, if you have any questions regarding sustainability, upcycling, please put it up on the chat and we'll be happy to answer your questions. So let me invite Soumya to our conversation. Let's wait for her to connect. We are there. Yes. Hi, Soumya.
Hi Shruti, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good too. Yeah,
It's nice to finally
very
meet
excited to be
you.
here. Yeah. Very excited to be here.
I'm glad, and we are very happy to have you on board. And as I was telling our viewers, our initial conversation over the phone, I was able to really sense the passion that you have towards sustainability. So I'm really looking forward to this conversation. I'm sure many of our viewers will get some interesting thoughts and ideas on sustainability thanks to you. So let's start at the beginning. What does Dwij mean? Uh, what do you do in Twitch? Tell us the whole journey about Twitch.
Yeah, sure. So, Dwej is a Sanskrit word and it means second life. So, essentially, we are saying that we are giving a second life to a used clothing. So, we started off with denim because we saw that there is a lot of denim these days all around, and people discard it just because they have outgrown the size, or like the fashion has changed, or there are like minor cuts or something, but not really because the material has some problem. And we also noticed that upon our survey that when this jeans is given to the needy, it so happens that when it's not their lifestyle of wearing the jeans, that also ends up into like, secondary work, like you use it as a mop or cleaning or something. So we are repurposing this post-consumer jeans, and we also work with post-industrial denim. Like when you have manufacturing of jeans, there are like rolls left out which have some defects, or there could be like some yardage, wastage, or anything. So we source this also as well, and using a combination of both these materials and also post-industrial kurta or shirt fabric, which is used as our inner lining. We primarily use these three materials, and we make as of now accessories like bags, backpacks, slings, all. Yeah.
Yes, I know, but maybe most of our viewers don't. So you could
Yes.
probably tell some of the range of products that you have.
Yeah, so the idea was like my prime focus always has been like it should be something that you can use in day-to-day life, and as well as be comfortable in fronting it, and also should like be able you should be able to wash it and have that kind of journey. So The product range mostly includes like slings for your to-go stuff, and then backpacks. We also came up with kids backpack range, which we'll launch at Gully Soda also soon. And then we have totes. Then we have some fancy totes as well, like which is like only evening party types or whatever.
Okay.
So and some pouches as well. Yeah.
Oh, that's the thing because as I was telling our viewers, we started off primarily focusing on upcycle products way back in 2013 when many people didn't even understand the word upcycle. Even now, I think some people don't. So maybe later you can define what upcycling means. But when we started Goli Soda, first thing we were very clear about that our products has to be cool. It has to be aesthetically good. It has to be durable because many people have this mind block that if you're using something so performance like uh, it might not be as good as the regular products that are available in the market. So that's why when I saw the products of Dwij, I was really excited by it because the quality and the finish is excellent and it kind of competes with any other products available. Like nobody will say these are discarded material. It's as good as new. So that's what I like about Dwij and the initiative that you've taken. So let's tell for some layman, how would you like? I keep many people ask me, what is upcycling? So each one of us have our own ways of explaining that. How do you define it to somebody who asks you?
Yeah, true. As you mentioned, there's a lot of stigma around this kind of products, and people, and also that there were only very few people previously. Now maybe the trend is going on, and we have to go back to our ancestors for this bit. So, like that's true that in our culture, habit of upcycling, and people still practice it, but maybe they do not know the word upcycling.
Yes.
So maybe the word has become cool these days to use upcycling, but the rags that we used to make, even as a kid, even now I'm sitting on a rag that is upcycled, like which my granny upcycled like long, like years back. So we
And
are
even
familiar to this
quilts
term.
during winter,
Yes,
the quilts
yes,
that is, it's all from old saris and things
yes.
like that. I remember that.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
they used to store all this really good cotton fabric and then used to make the quilt, and the best of the quality would be saved for the upper layer and all the chimneys go
Yeah.
inside. It's a very fancy process. So I see upcycling as like a very creative way of how you can actually remove that stigma, and when you see the product, you are supposed to ask, is this really upcycled? And this we get,
Yes.
as you
Yes.
mentioned, we get this feedback a lot. So are you not kidding me? Like you have really used material or the old material? So that's the beauty of upcycling. Like you really have to see what kind of material you want to choose. So upcycling basically is like converting material to a product that uses less energy but is of greater value. So, for example, in recycling, when you are using a lot of energy in the
Yes.
process, and you degrade the product in the process. So, like a plastic bag, which people say can be upcyclable, but when you actually upcycle it, it actually degrades. It doesn't maintain the
Recycle.
quality.
Yeah.
Yeah, in recycling. But in
Yeah.
upcycling, what happens is when you use the process of upcycling in a creative manner, you're actually adding value to the product and also increasing the longevity of the product. So in the
Yes.
at which our prime focus has always been that after doing so many efforts of going to the chimney markets, collecting them, getting them washed from the washers, and then bringing it to our facility and segregating it. And after going through this whole process, and if we don't deliver the right product of right quality, it doesn't really make any sense.
Yes. Yes.
Hello, have I lost
Yes.
you?
No, I'm here. Soumya, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, 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 I can hear you.
Okay.
Yeah, so after doing this whole process, if we don't add real value to the product, then it doesn't really make sense to do all this process in the first place. So that is why we also strive to see that our threads are of good quality, or our runners and zippers are of the best quality. That most of the products have YKK zippers and accessories. So this is the prime focus for us. And at the same time, whatever goes, the new material, whatever goes into this upcycling process, we try to make it as sustainable as possible. So every product will have its pros and cons if you keep
Yes.
on going, but we should be really true to what we are doing and really have a good research of why we are doing what we are doing. Yeah.
Yes. So the other problem with recycling that you mentioned, one is of course the amount of energy used, but many people don't realize the amount of carbon footprint involved, because say all the plastics are then collected in one place, then to a next dealer, then probably it's then shipped to China to recycle. So there's a huge amount of carbon footprint. And the other biggest issue with the recycling, also the amount of water involved in most cases, where a lot of washing and other things happens when you recycle a product. So that's why I feel upcycling is the need of the hour, because earlier when we were growing up, everybody used to say reduce, reuse, recycle, but those three words have no value. First is of course refuse, and from the way we are consuming right now, even recycle is not enough. The amount of energy involved is not enough. So I think upcycle should be a stage where everybody understands is as important to be sustainable. So that's the thing that I found many people are unaware of. They think, oh, I'm throwing this plastic bottle and anyway get recycled, but they don't understand that recycling is also technically not all that eco-friendly, and each material also has different amounts of energy and water involved for recycling. And the good thing about Dwij as well, you were talking about upcycling, increasing longevity. Um, the good thing about denim, it's completely durable. So it's definitely going to last for a very, very long time. I don't think so. I can assure any of our viewers here, if they're going to pick up a Twitch bag, definitely the very fact that it's made out of denim, and of course the quality in which you make, is really going to last almost a lifetime if you maintain it well. So that's the other good thing about your product that I realized. So tell me, I know your background has been very eclectic. You've been an engineer and things like that. So how did the idea to start Dwitch happen?
Yeah, so I did my master's from Germany in commercial vehicle technology. So it was all about automobiles and trucks and buses and all. So it is, yeah, unusual, and I get this a lot. Like, how is it even possible? So interestingly, I had an internship and a master's thesis with John Deere, where I came across this concept of life cycle assessment. So in life cycle assessment, you are actually trying to figure out the total carbon footprint or any measurable impact for that matter from the extraction of its material to the end of its life. So when I was doing my project on the spargers and sprayers and the heavy machineries, my question always was like, what happens at the end of life? And like at the end of life, generally all the softwares just provide a XYZ material, and the explanation is given that this material is somewhere taken care by someone. So like it's like a European model is discarded, it might come to India, some farmer might use it for few more years in the second-hand market, and then it's discarded. But to me, that seemed like you are able to recover this energy at this stage, or it could be lost forever. Like we do not know what might happen to it next. So that was like a quest that was going in my brain anyway. And then I started researching more about how much carbon footprint that I produce. So like I came across non-vegetarians have this much, which I have been vegetarian all my life, but those factors like, transport matters, your appliances matter, or like all these things. So like most of the things were not like a big shocker for me. I understood, yeah, if you're consuming electricity in a appliance, then of course there will be carbon footprint, or like when you're using fossil fuel, there will be carbon footprint. But what came to me as a shocker is the clothing industry. I never anticipated that clothing can be like one of the second most polluted industry according to some reports. So that was like a big
Okay.
shocker. Like, and then when I started reading, and when I was in Germany, I must accept, I was a fast fashion addict. So like I was a student, I had like a part-time job going on, and so I used to spend a lot of money every month to buy new stuff. And then I was like, whenever I used to buy, back of the mind, it also used to be that never mind, I'm going to put it in the bin that is there in Germany, which says that these clothes are going to go for to
Reset.
developing countries for reuse. So I was without any guilt. I used to do this. Like this was a repeated process. But then I started reading that actually these things go to some African countries where their whole infrastructure is dependent only on recycling, and they're pushed into poverty. So then it was like a oh my god moment, and I need to do something. So I did some experiments with myself. Like at home, we don't have any major appliance like refrigerator or washing machine or AC or TV for
Wow.
that matter. So we then started composting at home, and then we have very very minimal utensils at home. So like everything was about how we can cut down whatever that is not necessary. And then I went on to also like not buy anything for a year or so and see how it works, because for me that kind of detox was really required to like really question why something is needed. So then I was working at a corporate in India, and then suddenly one day, like after this thing went on too much, then I felt like we really need to answer some of the problems that are being faced now. And as you mentioned, like in 2013, maybe Godi Soda was the pioneer in this kind of movement. And by 2016, not much of talk was going around the clothing
Yes.
industry. Now we have more people coming up into this, which is a very good sign. So then I decided like let me experiment and see, and somehow this whole thing started. So I'm not a fashion designer, so all the designs that you see are like some experiments of like my understanding about sustainability and what the need is, and then presenting it to the like
No,
yeah.
but amazing to know that you're truly living a minimalistic life. Again, that's now a trend, I might say. Like many people are talking about minimalism and not owning too much and things like that. But I guess you've already set an example for many people who are striving to be truly sustainable and not being a minimalist. And as you said, I guess again we have to go back to the times of our grandparents who truly lived a life of minimalism, where I don't
Yeah.
remember my grandparents owning more than four sets of clothes or any of those things. So I guess really kudos to you to live a life like that. I think we should have a separate conversation on how that kind of a lifestyle is led, because for many of us, it's still shocking. Oh my God, how can our house not have a fridge, or how can we not have this? So I guess we will have a separate conversation with you
Sure,
to
sure.
take us through step by step on how to lead a very minimalistic life. So that's awesome. And coming back to Dwij, tell us about, I know you work with discarded materials and industrial waste material, but how does the sourcing process happen? Like, are you tied up with certain, of course, there might be some factories, but besides factories, who are the other people that you're tied up with? What kind of employment are you providing in that sense? I'm sure there are tailors that you provide employment. So could you just tell us about the people behind the sourcing and everything else?
Yeah. So whenever we thought about, I mean, whenever it comes to sustainability, as we know, it's all about all the aspects. We cannot just go with one thing and say that, okay, this is what is that's a way of sustainable, how a business should function. So of course, when it comes to that, employment, giving fair trade is really important. And then when you are sourcing upstream materials, it is very important to have it hygienically done. So on multiple fronts, there are like there is indirect employment generation for sure, but directly when we source it from different chindi bazaars or second-hand markets. So in Mumbai, there are like really really big chindi bazaars where every maybe 20-30 kilometers you just have to look, but you will find a chindi bazaar. So it took a lot of time for us to like really tie up with these people, because they come from a different understanding and a background, and they don't really understand what you do. And if you go and just say that I want this material, it doesn't work so easily. So you have to be one a person who has to be there again and again to like that we are there to take your material kind of thing. So it was a very difficult process in the beginning. So first we, like as I mentioned, we source it from Shimli Bazaar, and then it goes to our external washing facility where it is properly cleaned. So like how your bedding linens is done in say hotels or something, and from there it comes to our workshop. So also we encourage people to donate their jeans if they want to get rid of it. As of now, we don't have like a very big big community centers where people can come and donate. We are still small that way, and we encourage them to courier or something. So awareness part was very important for us, like why they have to donate, like why is it so important that they spend 80, 100 rupees on a courier and then send it to you. So that is like a very big challenge. And then when it comes to our employees, we have in our workshop, irrespective of the gender, we have workers who like are real in need of money and have a very good skill. And also we employ women who work from home, so they are basically trained in our workshop for the quality check and everything, and they buy the machinery. We could have provided the machinery, but when they buy, they have a sense of ownership that okay, I have to
Yes.
give back something in return. So we could have easily got some funding to this thing, but we saw that when they buy it, then they are like really inspired to do that work, and then they will be like really focused on doing that work. So they also manufacture. We give them the cut parts, and then they manufacture the whole thing and give. And also like as of now, we don't have a full-time designer on board, but we do like have a lot of freelancers who work on smaller projects. Yeah.
Okay, nice to know. What about future plans? Are you planning to diversify into other materials or other kind of products, or are you just any kind of, because it's just Dwij, it's just Second Life, so it can
Yes.
be Second Life for anything. So are you planning diversifying into other upcycling methods or products or materials?
Yes, we actually have a very big range that we wanted to launch this April, but unfortunately, due to the COVID, everything is stopped. And I think we are sure we want to launch it, but when it will happen and how it will happen is even a question of uncertainty for us. But there is something in store, so let's see what comes. We'll just
Okay.
keep it to that.
Okay, so that's a secret we'll all be waiting to hear
Yeah,
soon.
I
And
mean, because we don't have any clarity, I think we should just keep it as a secret for now.
yeah, so we don't want to jinx it right now, but let's hope for the best. And we look forward
Yes,
to having that range very soon at Goli Soda
Goli Soda.
Maharashtra.
Yes, yes,
So
yes.
let's keep our fingers crossed, and good luck to you and your team for the new range. So
Yes.
I'm sure, I mean, we've spoken a lot about upcycling and things like that, but I think the overall focus is right now, I believe, is about overall sustainability. As I said, even Boli Soda we first started calling ourselves a store having upcycled products. Then we started saying we're having eco-friendly products. But as we've grown and as we've become more aware of what is happening around us, I think it's just not enough to just call eco-friendly or natural. I think it's an overall package of calling ourselves sustainable. And I think that's the need of the hour. And as I told you, when we started in 2013, many people were unaware of many things that we had at Polisoda, whether it's a composting pot or cloth pad or upcycling products. So everything required a certain amount of education to our community. And right now, actually, our workshops and those things have come down because, in a very good way, there is a lot more awareness around us. So there is good competition. A lot of people are aware about these things. But there is also an issue of misusing these words of eco-friendly, natural, organic. So could you just tell us how do you define and what are your beliefs on sustainability? And when a customer has to pick up something eco-friendly or natural, organic or sustainable, what are the things that they really need to look into? Because you're so passionate about this, it'll be wonderful to hear from you.
So I think you touched upon
Excuse
a
me, there's
very,
some
very
noise.
important.
Is it coming from outside? From okay,
Yeah,
I
it's
think
a
now
mosque.
it's better.
A mosque is very near to my
Okay.
house, so
Okay.
maybe that it will just
Okay,
be
no problem.
alright
Just
in
wanted to
a
make
minute
sure
or
what
two.
was happening. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So that's a very important topic that you touched upon. I think stores like ours or like brands like ours have a big challenge in the sense, first of all, you have to educate the customer about what, what this product is about. And second, there is so much greenwashing around everywhere that you have to also educate them about the greenwashing that is happening everywhere. So it's like a very, very difficult situation you are in. So you can imagine, like just like a year, 2 years back, Maharashtra decided that they wanted to ban the plastic bags. And then only calls that I used to get is like, we are ready to pay like maybe 10 rupees, but make cloth bags for us. I'm like, what the, like, in the sense, how do you expect a material sourcing, a person to stitch, and also deliver everything in this cost price? So this is the kind of like, wrong movement that happens when people are not exactly aware of what they are supposed to buy. So, for example, everyone is rushing like to get a cotton bag, or like maybe brands are pushing to like buy that 15 rupees, 20 rupees. But nobody is sensitizing on the fact that okay, it's okay to have like some bag that you have at home can be reused again, and you can like use it until that longevity of that bag is like totally gone. So that's a very true point that everywhere, like people are just riding on the wave of sustainability in the name of like we are a sustainable product, but when you actually go deep dive into it, that isn't actually sustainable. So that's true. So when it comes to Dwij, we always say that first of all, if you have to buy, then buy. It is never like, okay, I'm a brand, I'm doing the greatest thing in the world, so please buy. That has never been the narration. And second thing, we don't really target on just the environmental part, just because if even it is not environmental part, as a common sense or as a normal practice, this should have been the way things would progress. If not the industrialization or commercialization that came in the in between. So like it's very obvious that you use something for increasing its life and then discard it. But now the cheap stuff is so much easily available that everyone wants to
Yes.
use it and discard it. So these are the two things. And then third thing is like we really ask them to see the overall quality or longevity. Like you must be having the finest of the bag, but the zipper just is gone in like just few days. Then nobody's going to mend it. So again, the
Yes.
purpose is there's no point. And then there's also a trend of like mixing two materials. So this, in my opinion, I mean, I try to see it in a different way that when you're mixing it two materials, mix it in such a way that disassembly is also easy.
Okay.
This is famously called as design for disassembly. So if you want to mix a plastic with a cotton, whatever you do, but mix it in such a way that you can separate it manually, and then both of them can have their next life cycle. So we try to inculcate that a lot in our thing. So people say that okay, for waterproof, why don't you spray like some kind of layer that will keep it waterproof? But I'm like, then that defies the whole purpose. So like everyone has one kind of a notion that they have that if XYZ thinks of synthetic is not applicable, then this bag, however good it is, may not be like really functioning well.
Yeah.
I hope I could bring up the point of greenwashing that is happening around in
Yes,
every sector.
no, I truly understand because, as I told you, when we started, nobody knew about it, so it was easy for us to educate. In one side, the competition is good. I keep telling people, they say, oh, there are other such brands that are in the market. But I feel good because there are people now aware that these are the kind of products, these are the things you need to start being aware of. But the market or like any other thing that becomes trendy, they latch on to it and start using the words very loosely. So some people, get carried away by it, and some people don't even know the difference between a natural product and a organic product. There are two different things actually. Organic product is natural, but a natural product needn't be organic. So many small terms that are being misused, and I think now that the education, like as many things, like half knowledge is worse than no knowledge kind of
Yes,
situations also
yes,
happening.
yes.
So you, I think, put it down very well, and especially for me, what attracted was a point about mixing materials, because not many people think about that aspect as well. So I guess the same way we segregate our waste at home, I think even the final products have to be able to be segregated to, send for easing recycling or upcycling or whatever we can do with it. So I think that's a wonderful point that personally even I didn't think about, and you brought it up. So the other question I wanted to ask you, you just mentioned about how the textile industry is probably the worst right now in pollution, maybe after plastics. We are all aware of that, most of us, but or if you have to get into it, it's a vast story by itself.
Yeah.
Again, we'll have to do another conversation about that. But let us just, since which handles denim, can you tell us about specifically how the denim industry is actually probably the worst among this industry in terms of water usage and things like that. So if you could, like, there are a lot of graphics that goes around about how much making one jeans takes up this many much of water and stuff like that. So could you just quickly tell us how the denim industry works?
Yeah, so for any textile industry, it right away starts from either a cotton growing place of agriculture, or it could be chemically done polyester, right? So
Yeah.
if you are taking the cotton thing, so statistics keep varying for how much water is required for denim, depending upon the how like water table of that region, what type of cotton crop it is. So generally, it goes somewhere between 8,000 to 10,000 liters of water. So when I'm saying 8,000 to 10,000 liters, that is actually the amount of cotton water that is required for the cotton to be produced. So to make a 1 kg of cotton, maybe X amount of water is required, and this denim will be made from this cotton. And second,
I'm
water
sorry,
usage.
we lost you in between. Sorry, could you repeat that again? 10,000 liters of water for?
Yeah, so 10,000 liters of water that is required. Hello,
Sorry, again
hello.
we lost you. I think the connection is a little poor. So could you repeat that again, please? Because it's
Yeah,
an important point. I don't want people to miss out on it.
yes. So when you are saying the liters of water, that actually depends upon the area to area and the type of cotton crop and everything. But when we are saying 8,000 to 10,000 liters of water, it's like two three stages. First is the amount of water that is required for cotton to grow, and then comes dyeing
Okay.
process. So dyeing involves a lot of chemicals and a lot of water for it to be done, and then comes the like bleaching process or like the faded appearance. So like when you see a jean, sometimes there is a fade. So that is done through like multiple layers of washing and different types of washing. So these days people are coming up with innovative ways like laser treatment, or like having water like recycling of water and all such processes. But the industry is so huge. The denim industry has penetrated, especially in India. In the last few years, it has penetrated so much in the tier two, tier three cities that maybe your best of the best industry practices might change, but it is going to take a long way for it to be adopted, like universally for. So that is going to be for a little while very, very water intensive, very energy intensive, and because of the chemicals and dyes, it also pollutes a lot of water around. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that. Coming to my final question that I ask more all our guests on this show. So all of us are going through multiple thoughts and um, uh, it's like a transition period for most of us during this whole 4 5 months of lockdown and with the whole world almost stopping. So personally and professionally, what are your thoughts? What's going in your mind right now?
Yeah, I think in the beginning, everything comes up as like a shock, like what is has happened. And as I mentioned, that we wanted to launch a range. So it often causes that, oh my God, if we didn't make that investment, what would have things been like? Or like maybe we just clicked some pictures and then maybe we could have just promoted. So there are like all this kind of, permutations and combinations that keep going on as a founder, like, and in Mumbai, the situation is so bad that I don't think I can even think of like, opening it very soon or something. So yeah, it did bother me, but fortunately I am a lot into meditation, yoga and everything. So I think I'm trying to like keep myself as peaceful as I can, and I'm spending a lot of time, doing a lot of activities for my personal development and like in general soft skills of life. So I think yeah, it has affected very badly, and the last few months for us, I mean, Goli Soda has a good thing, but I guess for us, being a single product brand and that being not like a essential product, it did
Yes.
really affect. But I think I'm just keeping myself safe. That's all. So that we can bounce back in more energy. Yeah.
So good luck to that, Soumya, and good luck to the whole team. Good luck to Dwij, and good luck to the new line or whatever plans you had to
Yeah.
start off
Thank you.
before this whole went down. And thank you so much for this conversation. It has been really enlightening, and I hope
And
the
thank
partnership
you
will.
to Yes, thank you for in having me over. I'm really, really happy to share. And this was our first live, so I think I really enjoyed it. Like, to have a nice conversation. Maybe first time e-meeting, but feeling so comfortable talking to you and very nice. It was
Same
good.
here. Same here,
Yeah.
likewise, and I really hope the partnership between Goli Soda and
Yes.
Dwij only grows bigger and bigger. So thank you so
Yes.
much, Soumya, for this lovely conversation. Good night.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Good night. Yeah.